Have you ever found yourself scrolling through your social media feed and feeling a pang of jealousy? It's a feeling we know all too well. The carefully curated images, the vacation photos, the perfectly styled lives. It's a bit like seeing someone on the other side of a glass wall with everything they have that you don't. We convince ourselves that the happiness we see online is a reflection of what we want. But how often do we stop and question if it's really true? Or maybe you've had the experience of trusting someone with your deepest secrets, only to have them betray you. Whether it's a colleague who undercuts your efforts or a friend who shares your confidence in a moment of weakness, trust is fragile. And when it's broken, the hurt can feel deeper than just the words. It becomes a wound on your heart. Perhaps it's ambition that drives you. The endless striving for more money, more success, more recognition. We've all chased after something, believing that once we get it, we'll feel fulfilled. But when we finally reach the goal, it's not quite as satisfying as we expected. Sometimes it leaves us feeling more empty than before, like we've climbed a mountain only to realize it wasn't the peak we thought it was. These are the issues we face daily. Yet it might surprise you to know that these same struggles were felt by a playwright over 400 years ago. William Shakespeare, a man of humble beginnings, wrote about jealousy, ambition, betrayal, and the passing of time, themes that are just as relevant today as they were in his day. The reason Shakespeare's work endures is because his understanding of the human condition transcends time. He captured the essence of our flaws, our weaknesses, our ambitions, our dreams, and presented them on stage. But Shakespeare didn't just entertain. He warned us through his characters. He showed us the consequences of unchecked jealousy, blind ambition, and misplaced trust. He warned us that appearances deceive, that pride leads to our downfall, and that time waits for no one. Today we're going to dive into 8 life warnings from Shakespeare, exploring how these warnings still resonate with us. We'll look at how his observations can guide us through the struggles we face in our daily lives. And as we reflect on these timeless lessons, we'll find that Shakespeare's words are not just for the stage, but for our very lives. 1. Jealousy, the green-eyed monster. Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on. Othello. Have you ever experienced the tight grip of jealousy? It might start as a passing thought, a quick flicker of comparison. But before long, it consumes your thoughts and your emotions. Maybe it was when you saw a colleague getting the promotion you felt you deserved, or when you compared your life to the perfectly curated lives you see online. Jealousy is a monster that mocks us while it feeds on our insecurities. In Othello, the protagonist is overtaken by jealousy, not because he has any concrete proof of his wife's infidelity, but because he lets suspicion grow unchecked. The more he feeds the beast of jealousy, the more it distorts his reality and ultimately leads to tragedy. Othello's downfall is not just caused by his external enemies, but by his own internal battle with jealousy. His jealousy blinds him to the love and loyalty that Desdemona has for him, turning his world upside down. Shakespeare's portrayal of jealousy isn't just an isolated tragedy. It's a universal experience. Today we still wrestle with this same demon. How often do we allow jealousy to creep in, comparing ourselves to others in ways that ultimately harm our own peace of mind. Jealousy doesn't just harm the person we're jealous of, it rots us from the inside out, undermining our sense of self-worth and distorting our view of the world. Jealousy feeds on insecurity. It's fueled by comparison, and it thrives in the shadows of uncertainty. Shakespeare's warning is not just about jealousy in relationships, but about how easily it can distort our perception of reality. By comparing ourselves to others, we rob ourselves of the peace we could have in appreciating our own lives for what they are. 2. Trust. Not every smile is honest. One may smile and be a villain. Hamlet. Have you ever felt the sting of betrayal? That moment when someone who seemed trustworthy, someone who smiled at you, turned out to be deceiving you all along. It could be a friend who spreads your secrets, or a colleague who undermines you when your back is turned. Shakespeare knew well the dark side of human nature. In Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark realizes that not everyone who smiles at him is sincere. Behind the friendly gestures and kind words, there can often be hidden motives. This is a lesson we need to remember in our own lives. Trust is something we give freely to others, but it's not always returned in kind. In today's world of social media, professional networking, and online personas, it's easy to think that everyone around us is genuine. We often let our guards down, believing that those who show us kindness or friendship have our best interests at heart. But Shakespeare warns us to be wary. Just because someone smiles doesn't mean they are our friend. Think about your own life. Have you ever trusted someone only to find out they were not who they claimed to be? Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you thought you could count on? Shakespeare's lesson is, not every friendly face is a friend, and not every smile is genuine. We need to be mindful of the people we surround ourselves with and the trust we place in them. Trust should be earned, not freely given, and actions speak louder than words. Just as Hamlet discovered, appearances can be deceiving, and it's up to us to see through the mask. 3. Ambition. The dangers of overreaching. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which overleaps itself and falls on the other. Macbeth. Have you ever felt the weight of ambition? The constant drive for more success, more recognition, more power. The desire to climb higher, to achieve greater things, to become the best version of yourself. Ambition is a powerful motivator, but Shakespeare warns us that unchecked ambition can be our downfall. In Macbeth, the protagonist is consumed by his desire for power. He's willing to do anything to become king, including committing murder. But Macbeth's ambition isn't just a desire for power. It becomes an uncontrollable force that leads him down a dark and destructive path. His ambition o'erleaps itself, driving him to make decisions that ultimately cause his destruction. Shakespeare's warning is, ambition can be a double-edged sword. While it can drive us to achieve great things, it can also blind us to the consequences of our actions. Have you ever pushed yourself so hard to reach a goal, only to realize that in doing so, you've sacrificed something that truly matters? Whether it's your relationships, your health, or your sense of integrity, unchecked ambition can lead to a hollow victory. True success is not just about achieving our goals. It's about achieving them in a way that aligns with our values and doesn't come at the cost of our well-being. We must be careful not to let ambition become an obsession that distorts our judgment and blinds us to what truly matters. 4. Time, the irreplaceable resource. Better 3 hours too soon than a minute too late. The Merry Wives of Windsor. Have you ever found yourself putting things off, thinking there will always be time later? We tell ourselves we'll get to that phone call, that important task, that conversation with a loved one tomorrow. But as Shakespeare reminds us, time waits for no one. In The Merry Wives of Windsor, the character of Falstaff is a man who constantly runs late, thinking that he can delay things without consequences. But Shakespeare tells us that it's better to act early than to regret acting too late. Time is the one resource we can never get back. How many times have you procrastinated on something important, only to find that time has slipped away from you? The project left unfinished, the conversation left unsaid, the relationship left unattended. Time is fleeting, and once it's gone, we can't get it back. Shakespeare's warning is a call to action. Don't wait. If there's something important you need to do it now. Because 1 minute too late can lead to regret, and regret is a heavy burden to bear. 5. Appearances. What you see isn't always what you get. All that glisters is not gold. The Merchant of Venice. Have you ever been deceived by appearances? That shiny new thing that promised so much, only to let you down. The flashy new car that turned out to be full of mechanical problems. Or the shiny new job that turned out to be much less glamorous than it seemed. Appearances can be deceiving, and Shakespeare knew it. In The Merchant of Venice, the character of Bassanio chooses a casket filled with gold, believing that wealth will lead him to happiness. But Shakespeare reminds us that not everything that glitters is gold. Appearances can be misleading. What we see on the surface isn't always the reality beneath. In today's world, where social media creates an illusion of perfection, it's easy to believe that everyone else has it together. But behind the filters, the carefully staged photos, and the curated profiles, we don't always see the struggles that others face. Shakespeare's lesson is a timeless one. Don't be fooled by appearances. Look deeper. The most valuable things in life often come in unassuming packages. 6. Words. The power of speech. How sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. King Lear. Have you ever been hurt by someone's words? Maybe it was a harsh comment, a criticism that cut to the core, or a casual remark that stayed with you long after it was spoken. Words have power. They can lift us up, or they can destroy us. In King Lear, Lear is devastated by the cruel words of his daughters, and Shakespeare shows us just how powerful words can be. Sometimes words hurt more than actions. A hurtful remark can linger in our minds, shaping our self-perception and our relationships. Shakespeare's message here is, choose your words carefully. Speak with kindness, with thoughtfulness, and with compassion. Words have the power to heal, but they also have the power to wound deeply. The scars left by words may never fade. 7. Self-deception. The danger of denying the truth. This above all, to thine own self be thou true. Hamlet. Have you ever lied to yourself? Perhaps you've convinced yourself that you're happy in a job that drains you, or in a relationship that isn't serving you. We all do it. whether we realize it or not. Self-deception is a natural defense mechanism, but it's also dangerous. In Hamlet, Polonius gives his son Laertes this piece of advice: "To thine own self be true." Shakespeare is reminding us that we can only truly grow and feel in peace when we stop lying to ourselves about who we are, what we want, and what we need. Think about it. How often do we put on a mask for others, pretending to be something we're not? How often do we ignore our own desires and convince ourselves we're fine, when deep down we know something is missing? Self-deception may offer short-term comfort, but in the long run, it prevents us from living an authentic, fulfilling life. Shakespeare teaches us that the path to wisdom and growth begins with honesty with ourselves and with others. 8. Pride, the fall of the proud man. Proud man, dressed in a little brief authority, most ignorant of what he's most assured. Measure for measure. Have you ever seen someone become so absorbed in their own sense of superiority that they lost touch with reality? Maybe it was a boss who acted like their position made them infallible, or someone who became so caught up in their success that they lost sight of what really matters. In Measure for Measure, Shakespeare warns of the dangers of pride. Pride leads to ignorance. When we believe we are above others, when we think our success makes us untouchable, we become blind to our flaws and blind to the truth. Think about your own experiences. How often do we see people rise to power only to fall because of their arrogance? Whether it's in politics, business, or our personal lives, pride often leads to downfall. Shakespeare's warning is, humility is the key to true success. No one is invincible, and no one is above the laws of human nature. When we humble ourselves, we open ourselves to learning, growing, and becoming better versions of ourselves. As we've seen, Shakespeare's warnings are not just relics of the past, they are lessons for today. The struggles he wrote about, jealousy, betrayal, ambition, trust, pride, are still present in our lives. But through his words, Shakespeare gives us a chance to reflect, to learn, and to avoid the pitfalls that others have fallen into before us. These 8 warnings are not just pieces of literature. They are tools for living a better, more thoughtful life. By remembering them, we can navigate the complexities of our own hearts and minds, and ultimately live with more clarity, wisdom, and peace. So, next time you find yourself caught in the grip of jealousy, distrust, ambition, or pride, remember that Shakespeare was here long before us, warning us of the same pitfalls. And just like him, we have the choice to heed these lessons and change our course.